Coming up on the panel, Brady is back, which means that $500,000 supposed last touchdown pass of his ain't worth that anymore. The Manning cast is coming to the Mint Collective, and baseball is back. So we'll see how that moved the needle in the hobby. It's coming up next. And welcome to the latest edition of the panel, where we discuss what's hot, what's not, and the latest trends in the memorabilia market space with our panel of experts, David Kohler, the president of SCP Auctions, Jesse Craig, director of business development at PWCC Marketplace, and Nick Sapero, who is the new Collectable vice president of acquisitions and consignments. I'm Bram Weinstein. All right, topic one. He fooled no one, including the Buccaneers. They played out the string, and Tom Brady, after retiring, changed his mind. About a month and a half later, he's going to come back for a 23rd season and play for Tampa. So let me just open up the conversation there, and we'll get to the news item of what was a last touchdown pass football that was selling for over $500,000. But David, let me just start with, here is an iconic, maybe GOAT of quarterbacking who has flipped the script quickly here, and he's coming back.
I mean, yeah, it's great news. It's great for the NFL, for football, for Tom Brady, all the fans. It's fantastic. Obviously, he, after 6 weeks, was like, I need to get back on the field. I mean, the man is going to be 45 and had, 43 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards passing last year. Was very close to getting to the Super Bowl again, when they played the Rams. And, I mean, he had a great season. I think he's not done, and it's exciting. It's great for the sport.
For the hobby, Jesse, what do you see here? Was there a spike in his memorabilia upon his retirement, and what do you expect to kind of happen here now that he's changed his mind and he's coming back?
Well, he just stays relative now, right? So preseason, come August, everybody's going to be talking about it, and his stuff's going to probably see a spike, just like we normally do with these guys that are active. But yeah, we saw a little bit of a spike in stuff when he was retiring. And then, if you're not in the news, your stuff starts to teeter off a little bit. There's just not as much action going on regarding your items. And now that he's back in the news, his stuff's going to probably spike again over the next month. And then once again, we'll see it in the preseason. So it's obviously good for our industry. It's great for the Bucks. Unfortunate for the guy who bought the ball that you talked about. But yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Okay, let's get into that, Nick. There was someone who bought what was purported to be, and what was, as of 48 hours ago, the last touchdown pass that he had ever thrown, and it sold for over $500,000. Obviously, that's not the last touchdown he's ever thrown. So what do you make of what happens from here?
It was funny. About an hour before it happened, my mom and I were having the conversation, and she was like, "What if he comes back? What happens to that ball?" And I went to the gym, came back, and sure enough, it happened. So, I pretty much told her, hey, that ball definitely goes from, potentially, selling for $500,000 to selling, it could be as low as 50,000. It could be 10% of the value. It's still Tom Brady touchdown ball, so it's still valuable, but it's definitely not the last touchdown. So significance goes out the door there.
Jesse, would you let somebody out of the deal if you were selling it for that, and then realize that the news cycle had changed significantly, knowing that the value is not clearly going to be worth what he paid for it?
Yeah, this is a unique scenario. It's a slippery slope, right? So you've got the owner of the ball who knows how they acquired it, the first owner who was auctioning it. They're probably crushed, because what it comes down to is whoever bought this ball, they're not going to pay for it. And maybe they'll get banned from the auction or whatever it may be. I guarantee you they're not just going to light, like Nick said, $450,000 to $500,000 on fire. That ball, in my opinion, is, maybe it's $20,000, $30,000. I don't know what a playoff touchdown ball for Tom Brady goes for, but it's obviously a fraction of what it sold for. And so any buyer in their right mind is probably going to go, yeah, I'm not paying for that. Like, the information was different 24 hours later. Now, as an auction house, it puts you in a really tough spot, because you obviously have a consignor or a seller that's expecting payment on it. But it's just, look, nobody wins in this situation. It's just really unfortunate.
Okay, David, what do you think here? What do you make? You've dealt with high-level items like this your entire career. What do you make of what's going to happen here?
I mean, unfortunately, he feels really bad for the consignor, right? He was going to have a big windfall here, and that went away within 48 hours. So, I don't have any inside news on this. I'm sure it won't be paid for, and the sale will probably be null. But I actually was thinking about this. I think the GOAT move is for Tom Brady to say, hey guys, I'm coming back. Everything's good. You know what? I know about that football that sold, my last TD football. I'm just going to buy that. I'll pay the 500 grand. I'll sign it and say, hey, this was going to be my last TD ball with an asterisk, and then just auction it off, and he'll get multi-millions dollars in PR value out of it. And everybody walks away feeling good.
Yeah, all right. That's an answer there. All right, before we leave high-level quarterbacking playing this year and get to some of the legends that are dealing in our industry now, quick thought on Russell Wilson becoming a Denver Bronco. Jesse, does that move the needle for you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great change of scenery for him. I think he was just getting a little stale there in Seattle. They've got a solid team in Denver, good wide receiver core. So I like him going to the Broncos. Maybe he can do a little Peyton Manning there and win another Super Bowl. But I think it's a good fit. I think everybody won in the trade. They gave up a lot for him, but it's exactly what they needed. And I'm pretty curious to see how he pans out there.
Yeah, few have won with multiple teams. Brady obviously is one of them. Nick, what do you think here? Russell Wilson as a Bronco, does that move the needle for you?
It doesn't. I mean, I think the Broncos are still a middle-of-the-road team, even with Russell Wilson. I honestly don't think it does too much for that team, but I could be wrong. Hopefully he proves me wrong, but I really don't see them doing too much.
All right, David, Russ cooking for you? Is that cooking for you?
Not really. I mean, he's a great quarterback, but the Broncos have a lot more to put in place for them to become a real deep playoff team. So it doesn't move the needle for me a lot.
Okay. All right, let's get into topic
I'm on
two.
an island. I'm on an island.
If he wins, everybody will change their tune. That's what I've learned through this show. He goes and wins a Super Bowl with the second team. Everybody will change their tune about it. All right, topic two. From the legends who are still playing to one of them who's been out of the game, Peyton Manning and his group, Omaha Productions, have come to an agreement with the Mint Collective, and they're going to be performing and producing some reality television shows on behalf of the hobby. So we've got media icon Peyton Manning on board with what's going on in our space now. So Jesse, let me start with you here. What's your reaction to hearing that the Mannings are going to be involved?
I love it. The Mint Collective is going to be a different trade show than we've ever seen in our industry. A lot of big names coming to it. That actually is next week. So we've been waiting for it for a long time because of COVID. It got delayed, and getting a name like Peyton Manning on board, I couldn't be more excited. Looking forward to meeting him while we're there at the show. And he's a jokester, he's an entertainer, and he's a massive brand. So hats off to Collectable for getting it done, and the Mint Collective.
All right, Nick, Vice President, Acquisitions and Consignments. This must be piquing your interest. What's going to happen with the Mannings? So, what do you make of all this?
No, I love it. I mean, it's more exposure for the hobby. It brings a huge name, in pretty much the entire sports world to our hobby and gives it spotlight. Anytime you have a major figure like that talking collectibles, people are entertained. So I think that's the big thing. It's a new entertainment sector for our hobby. It's, it moves the needle in so many ways. I can't wait to kind of watch this content.
All right, David, in what ways do you think that the Mannings being associated with this will help the hobby?
I mean, it's great. He's obviously well known, very well liked, and has a lot of appeal. So here he is getting to our business, doing this 3-year deal with the Mint Collective. I look forward to meeting him next week. It's great. I mean, it's just another thing that we're getting the sports world and sports memorabilia fans to pay attention to what's going on out there with this dynamic industry we're in. And it's great. It's going to work. It's going to be awesome.
All right, topic 3. We had a course reversed recently with Tom Brady. We have another one. No surprise, the Major League Baseball owners and players have finally come to an agreement. And in fact, while opening day as previously scheduled was canceled, they are going to end up playing all 162 games, and baseball is back and spring training has opened. So, Nick, let me start with you here. What do you make of baseball now being back on track?
It's great. I mean, now you're seeing a bunch of guys signing on new teams. You're going to see some big free agent signings, whether that be Freddie Freeman or Carlos Correa, move to new teams. We'll see. It definitely seems like Freddie Freeman's going to move to a new team. So, that's very interesting. Now it keeps baseball more relevant. People are talking about it. People are excited about it. As before with the lockout happening, it was kind of just more so irrelevant to me. So now I have something to kind of look forward to.
Jesse, how did the lockout affect the hobby? And now that it's gone, what changes have you seen?
Well, I mean, baseball had to have this happen. I mean, we had to have a full season. They are, from popularity, I think they're the number 3 sport in the States now. So they, for them to miss games, it would just, make them even more irrelevant. And now that they're, the lockout actually did bring some, some notoriety to the MLB, which was good. And now that the season's going, that's good. Free agency is going to be quick. The season's starting on time. It's all great things for baseball. They're making some changes in their agreements to try to speed up the game. I think that's smart. And, we'll kind of see if it works and how the viewership is. But kudos for them getting it done and starting the season on time.
They are making some other in-game changes. I don't know if they're notable for the hobby, but I'll ask you, David, anyway. All of a sudden, we have universal DH. Pitchers aren't hitting anymore in the National League. That's over with. And they have eliminated the shift. And I don't think we exactly know what that means, but it is going to alter the way teams can play defense. So modern baseball, how does that kind of float your boat these days?
I mean, again, so glad the season's back on. They're going to have a full season. Obviously, they've scheduled a bunch of doubleheaders. From what I heard, the World Series is still the same time in October. So that's good. That's great for our business, our industry, all those things. Those players need to get back on the field, short spring training, and get going. So I am glad to hear that they're doing some things to speed up the game. That's the one thing personally that baseball gets a little slow for me at times. So hopefully that gets all implemented. Should be great for the sport. And then having pitchers not hit in the National League, right? So that should be great for more runs, more scoring, which is always good with whatever sport you play.
All right, let me ask you about one particular star player, too, because the news came out that Fernando Tatis is going to miss at least 3 months with wrist surgery, suffered motorcycle accident off of the first year where he signed that mega deal far before he had hit arbitration or free agency. That didn't go particularly well in San Diego. So, Nick, if you're investing in Fernando Tatis these days, are you a little concerned what's going on there?
I mean, you got to be concerned. I mean, look, you're missing time in kind of your prime years where you're technically right now. I'd say he's arguably the face of baseball. I mean, he's at least the most personable person in the game. So for me, I think it does affect his values, and his values, I think, in the short term will reflect that. But if he comes back and he starts playing again and hitting the way he was hitting prior to that, I don't really think that it's going to affect it long term per se.
Okay, and the other one we're watching here, Jesse, I wonder what your opinion is on Juan Soto, who reportedly turned down a $350 million contract before the lockout began. Now that they're back, the Nationals are saying publicly that they would be willing to continue to engage in those type of numbers with him if he's open to it. Now, we don't know that he is. What are you watching here with Soto as business is back open in baseball again?
I mean, I don't know how you turned down $350 million, but it'll be interesting to see if they can ink a deal with him. I think he's obviously one of the bright young talents in the game. I think he's, top 3 or 4, really, when you try to rank all the younger players. And so they need to get a deal done with him for it to cost them more than $350. I know that these baseball contracts are massive, but man, that's a ton of money. I can't remember. Do you remember how many years it was?
I think they said 13, if I had it right.
Okay, I mean that's a long deal. So I'm sure he's probably trying to hit that 350 number, but minimize the years. But he's a hell of a talent, and he's probably worth every penny as long as they can kind of knock those years down.
Okay, let's get to the final word. David, we'll start with you. Dealer's choice. What do you got this week?
What I got is the stars in the universe are all lined up. Baseball's back full season. Tom Brady is coming back on the NFL field. A 1975 Topps number 2 on the PSA registry just sold for over $600,000, and Wilt Chamberlain's ticket stub from March 1962 when he scored 100 points just sold for about $107,000. Everything's great.
Jesse, final word. What do you got?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Mint Collective show next week, it really is a big deal. This is going to be probably the biggest show, not dealer-wise, but importance-wise, outside of the national that we've had in our industry. Tons of quality speakers that are going to be there, tons of quality vendors, lots of foot traffic. It's in Las Vegas, lots of money flying around the room. So I'm really looking forward to, meeting some people, shaking some hands, and having some fun.
Okay, Nick, final word. What do you got?
I was going to plug the Mint Collective, but Jesse did a great job of that. So I'm going to go to, all of this football kind of off season. I'm going to mention, Carson Wentz in that situation going to the Commanders. So I do think it impacts the team. I'm going to say that that they have a shot at a wild card spot there, and expect for my Dolphins, expect Teddy Bridgewater to be starting about like week 5. So those are my takes currently. What's happening on the NFL offseason.
I'm not investing in Teddy Bridgewater yet. You made an interesting case, but I'm going to hold off on that one. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the panel. For David Kohler, Jesse Craig, Nick Sapero, I'm Bram Weinstein. See you next time.